I find Leandro Trossard so confusing, everyone. I really do. I love the guy. He's had big moments in an Arsenal shirt. But it's just me who watches him sometimes and thinks, I want a little bit more from you here. I want a little bit more. You know, you're a talented player. You're great with your right and left foot. Get on the ball and play. Make things happen. Knit play together. Combine with Martinelli. Play some through balls. Get lots of shots at goal. Show everyone in tight space what you can do. Twist and turn and get defenders worrying about what you're going to do because you've got the talent to do it. And yet, whenever I think that, he's ultimately the guy that's got a crucial goal. He's ultimately the guy, like against Bournemouth last season, when we were 1-0 up and I was watching it thinking, Trossard is not in this game, he's not doing anything. Then he gets the second goal that pretty much seals the 3 points in what is a crucial game in the title race. And so that's what I find so hilarious about Leandro Trossard, is that while I can totally acknowledge, and I can see in my eyes, there is a real talented player there, I find myself wanting a little bit more. And the stats kind of prove that. Let me show you what he did against Leicester, because ranking his data against Leicester to other Arsenal players, he actually ranked 4th for shots in the game, he ranked 9th for touches, he ranked 4th for shot creating actions, he ranked 8th for attempted passes, 8th for progressive passes, and 9th for carries. For someone that I actually gave man of the match to in my AFTV player ratings on the website, go check it out. For someone I gave man of the match to, that's not a really great set of stats. He's not carrying the ball as much as other people. He's not progressing the ball as much as other people. He's not having as many touches as other players. And we were very attacking on the day. We were all over Leicester, creating chance after chance. And yet his numbers didn't come out as particularly impressive, despite being one of the 2 forward players. Then Nwaneri came on. Nwaneri came on and looked scintillating. Everything he did, from his first touch to dribbling at players to the combos with Saka or whoever it might be, everything he did to try and impact the game was spot on. He looked absolutely phenomenal, and now people are calling for Nwaneri to play. But if Nwaneri's going to play, and we typically play with a 6 and a box-to-box robust 8, so probably Declan Rice, Marino when he comes back, Jorginho or Partey fighting out for the 6. When you look at that, you then think, well, then it's got to be Trossard or Nwaneri, because you're not dropping Havertz. I mean, if Havertz is playing in midfield, you know, Trossard starting, and you're talking about Nwaneri, he's going to move up front. Havertz, he's our starting striker. The only way Havertz moves into midfield is to get Trossard in that team, maybe in a different way, and to get the balance right. But more on that in a little bit. So you're talking about Trossard and Nwaneri fighting it for that 3rd position. Now, on the eye, to use Arteta's words a little bit, he is someone that generates football, Nwaneri. He's someone who you feel like you can give the ball to him and he'll combine or drop in spaces, he'll link up, he'll make things happen. Whereas Trossard feels like he's on the periphery of the game a little bit more, but can have the really big moments. And again, I showed you the Leicester stats to prove it, but you show me a little bit more from FBref. Here are some screenshots. We'll just fly through really quickly. In terms of his possession data when compared to the other top 5 or players in his position in Europe's top 5 leagues, not ranking particularly highly in a lot of things there at all. If I show you for goal and shot creation, that's the same there, not ranking very highly on a lot of those stats. And again, ranking pretty poorly on passing stats. But what does he rank really highly with is shooting stats. Look at this. From goals to shots in total, shots on target percentage, goals per shot, XG, all those things are really, really good. Why? Because he's a dangerous player that knows how to understand where the ball's going to be, he can smell out a chance, he can get into really, really good areas, and he can often have really clutch moments. Clutch moments he's been having for Arsenal and for Brighton, with the evidence here. I think you might have seen this when I went through it on Tactical Insight before, but 6 goals against Liverpool since arriving to the Premier League, 4 against Chelsea, 2 against Tottenham, 2 against Man City, 1 against Arsenal, 2 against United, and scoring a goal away at Goodison Park when we desperately needed a win. We hadn't won there in years. A goal in the Champions League against Porto when we were 1 behind against Bayern Munich. He scores again, and then he got us the opening goal that ultimately saw us win 2-1 at 2-0 at Villa Park the other day. So he's had big goals in big games, Leandro Trossard. But again, in terms of the natural profile fit, the better like-for-like replacement for a Martin Odegaard, it's Nwaneri, and he's proving that he looks ready. Every time he touches that pitch, he looks like there's more to give, and his performances are getting better with more confidence, and he's feeling more at home. So the debate is fascinating, because when I look at Leandro Trossard, I keep thinking, I want a little bit more from you, but he has these clutch moments. So when it comes to this game against PSG, and actually for a lot of this season, if we're going to, a lot of these upcoming games, we're going to miss Martin Odegaard. Trossard has been the go-to in the North London derby. He's been the go-to away at Manchester City at the Etihad as well. But do you feel like Arsenal could be maybe going through the gears a little bit more if we had someone else who, again, like Nwaneri, is a little bit more I don't know, on the eye impressive than Trossard. And that's harsh on Trossard, because Trossard can do lots of things that are incredibly impressive on the eye. But the thing that really stands out with Trossard is how clutch he is and how big the moments he has are. Like essentially winning us the game against Leicester the other day, to a point where he earned us man of the match. Well, he earned the man of the match award despite not really being at his very best himself. That's what I find so interesting about him. Now I'm going to talk about this in a little bit more detail at the end of the video when I talk about my predicted 11. But before we predict what that 11 is going to be against PSG, I do just want to talk about Riccardo Calafiori, because this picture did the rounds, and I'm really sorry I couldn't find who actually originally posted this. So if it's you, let me know. I'll either pin to the top of the I'll pin your comment to the top of the video, or I'll try and find a way to add it into the edit. But I wasn't 100% sure who took this picture. But Calafiori in a knee strap, you know, after the Leicester game. Supposedly some footage emerged of him sort of maybe hurting it as he landed against Leicester, and he was apparently quite emotional after the game. That was mentioned by ITKs, and this was mentioned by Mikel Arteta, who has said, though, talking about Ben White and Calafiori, that those two are players that are in contention and that he has to review them today. He says, we didn't do any training sessions yesterday and Riccardo was a bit emotional after the game, so let's see how he is today. Now, that actually does go in line with what some of the ITKs were saying about the fact that he was quite emotional after the game, that there was an injury but they didn't know the extent of it, and that's essentially what Mikel Arteta is saying. But it did create a little bit of hysteria in the Arsenal fan base on the Sunday, with people thinking this could be quite serious. I think because of some of the wording or kind of cryptic messaging that came from ITKs. Now look, I'm not going to sit here and sort of judge what they do. I'm very grateful to ITKs who bring us information, because there's always a thirst for information, and when we get it, I often use it in these videos as well and try and credit them, because they do some fantastic work that, you know what, when you've built up a portfolio and a catalogue of, you know, really great information and insight into what's going on, and then it's only right we give it credit. But some of the messaging did leave Arsenal fans a little bit hysteric and a little bit worried about what was going on with Calafiori. So that's maybe something to be careful of in future. But ultimately, the information that there is some sort of knee problem, but we don't know how, you know, bad it is true. And it's looking like it won't be too bad, because if he's in contention for today, he's not sort of walking on crutches, and Arteta, you know, doesn't know even, you know, what we're talking about, 48 hours on from the game. He doesn't know that there's actually anything serious there. It probably tells us that Calafiori is okay, and if there is anything wrong, it's probably minor. But let's hope that is the case, and we'll wait to see what actual information comes out around these injuries. Now, let me go through the predicted 11, like I mentioned on this graphic here. So I've gone for David Raya to keep his place in goal, of course, with Jurrien Timber, William Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes and Jakub Kiwior at left back, because I think whatever it is Calafiori might have, they won't want to risk it. There's no point. He was only just finding his best football and getting into his groove against Leicester. No point risking it. Kiwior's shown that he can play in big games and in the big occasion for Arsenal, and play at left back and get a bit of a run. So I'd stick with Jakub Kiwior, if I'm honest, in this game. And now we're kind of seeing why we felt that we needed to keep him in the squad, because with the injuries we do get to fullbacks like Tomiyasu and Zinchenko as well, he's going to need to play some football, and he in fact is. In midfield, I've gone for Jorginho to come in place for Partey. I feel that the game was a bit too open with Partey in midfield, especially in that second half against Leicester. And what he does well on the ball, Jorginho can do too. So in my opinion, I think we go for someone like Jorginho's experience in the Champions League, and who didn't put a foot wrong when we needed him to play last season. I think Arteta should show him a little bit more confidence, because it feels like when Partey's fit and ready to go, he sort of discards Jorginho a little bit as a starter, and he very much becomes a bench option, when I think he could be a rotational option with Partey, and they could be rotating the minutes. Declan Rice keeps his place, but then it's Saka, Trossard and Martinelli as my three behind Kai Havertz. But what I really want to see in this game is Trossard in the 10, floating into midfield, popping up on the right or left of midfield, combining with Saka, combining with Martinelli, doing the things he did more in the Man City game, or threatened to do in the Man City game and Tottenham game, and let Kai Havertz lead the line. Because it felt against Leicester that Kai Havertz was actually dropping more into midfield in the right half space to combine with Saka, leaving Trossard to be the false 9, and it was if anything more 4-4-2, and I would just make sure Kai Havertz is your focal point, running the channels, stretching the game, being a target man, combining with the midfield, and let Trossard get into those pockets where he can hurt teams. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on everything we said about Nwaneri and Trossard, and do you know what I mean? Do you sometimes wish you got a little bit more from Trossard in terms of the eye test, the aesthetics, but ultimately he's putting up great numbers, so should we forgive all that ultimately? And let me know what your starting 11 would be for this game against PSG. This isn't my preferred starting 11, this is just my predicted 11 for what I think Arteta will go with. To be honest, it's probably the 11 I'd go for anyway, with the little knowledge I have about some of the injuries. Hopefully Calafiori is okay, hopefully Ben White's okay, and we should find out more about them in the coming days.